One of the biggest reasons why people like me come out and talk to people like you guys is to talk about what's called STEM education. STEM is an acronym, stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math. It's very important to people at iRobot because we're trying to encourage people like these nerds in the front row here to find math, science, and engineering and technology interesting, and pursue those kinds of things. As you can see, there's correlations between what you're learning in school and jobs you can have. Like science, it has applications in engineering and in research. Math, I don't know about you guys, but I happen to love math. It's probably one of the reasons I became an engineer. Engineering, finance, doing web stuff and accounting. English, believe it or not, yes, engineers need to use their English. One of the biggest reasons why is because we spend a lot of time writing stuff. We write reports, we write memos, we write assembly programs, we write things to tell people how to put our stuff together. After we design it, it's really cool, that's the fun part. You get to design new gadgets and new widgets. Yay, cool! Now you gotta tell somebody else how to build it. Yeah, not quite so cool, but still, you have to be able to do that, so you have to be able to communicate with people. That's English, so one of the things you're learning. Marketing, people in marketing definitely need to know that. Sales, again, the web, and public relations. You need to be very good at communicating with people, presenting yourself, both in written and oral. And yes, social studies does actually have applications in the real world. The marketing people, they need to know about different countries. You need to know about different cultures. That's the type of stuff you learn in social studies. You know, they need to know that if they go to a different country and they go to shake someone's hand, they might be insulting that person. Those are the kinds of things you learn in social studies. So yes, it's not just learning about history and remembering who did what in what battle. There's actually other stuff to it. Sales and field service, the same thing happens. The salespeople over in other countries, they need to know what's going to appeal to those cultures. Okay? If you want to sell your robots over in those different cultures, you need to know what it is. Careers involved in robotics. If you're not an engineer, you're not scientifically predisposed, it doesn't matter. There's all kinds of other jobs. There's industrial design, there's logistics, user interface, marketing, graphic design, web design. We even have lawyers. Right? You have to have a lawyer because you've got patents. You've got tons and tons of patents. You have to have a lawyer. Accountants and writers and all kinds of stuff in social media. That, I believe, oh, not quite. So why build robots? That's why. Believe it or not, that's our mission statement. That's on the back of my badge when I go to work. This is what iRobot believes in. They believe in just simple stuff. The very first line of our badge, our mission statement is build cool stuff. Develop that, deliver great products. It's important. Make money, well, I'm afraid that unfortunately, yes, the purpose of all business is to make money, so that is important. Have fun. Yes, they do indeed encourage us to have fun. And doing things like this actually is fun, although it can be torturous sometimes. And the last one was change the world. And yes, believe it or not, that's really the way they feel. They believe that all of our stuff makes a difference and it does indeed help to change the world. So, does anybody have any questions? So they haven't already plagued me with already. Yes, young man.
Like how long does it take to design the robot design and the programming?
How long does it take to design one? Well, typically to bring a new product from concept out into production, it can take probably about a year, maybe a year and a half. It depends upon how involved it is. If you're starting from something like this and you're just making adjustments to it, for instance, this is one of our 500 series. Last year they came out with a 700 series. Has a lot of improvements made to it. But in general, the design was the same. So you didn't have to start from the ground up and design the whole package. You just had to stay within a certain footprint and make some modifications to it. It took them about a year and a half or so to come out with an entire new 700 series one. But to design something like that from the get-go, 5 years, 6 years is not uncommon, especially for something like a government contract where there's all kinds of testing that has to go into this. This thing gets tested to death. It gets dropped. It gets shaken. It gets frozen. I mean, we torment these things. Believe me, we have thermal chambers where we put the thing in at minus 40 degrees, and then we'll ramp it up to 70 degrees because that's what it's going to see.
Who volunteers for that?
Well, we don't put a person in there. Yes, young man. How long does it take to build it? That's a really good question. We actually don't do any of the building in-house at iRobot. We actually do something that's called contract manufacturing, which means we send all of our manufacturing out to other facilities. To build one from start to finish, it depends on what you're building. For instance, we have sold over 7 million Roombas. That's a lot. We have sold 4,500 packbots. That's still a fair number, but it's not nearly 7.5 million. So they make these by the boatloads, and they make them very quickly. These take a lot longer, probably a day at least, a day and a half to build one from start to finish, if you just have one person working. But if you need to make more at a time, you probably get a little production line going, and you can probably make several in a day. Because I'm sure that we've built something like several hundred of these in a month. Yes, young man?
How much do they cost?
Which ones?
The
Roombas. Roombas go anywhere from about $300 up to the latest and greatest ones are about $600. Because they've got a lot of stuff in them and they're pretty high tech. And they vacuum your floor for you. You don't have to do any of the work on it. Yes, you. No, not you, sorry. Actually, packbot. Okay. A packbot is somewhere between $60,000 to $100,000.
That's why the government buys it.
Yes, that's why the government buys them, right? And also because of all the stuff that's in there. There's a lot of hardware in the cameras, the chassis, the motors, the electronics, a lot of stuff. You know, we end up buying already as a COTS item, we call it, commercial off-the-shelf item, like the cameras and what have you. But they all have to be very robust. After all, this thing has to be able to get dropped. Believe it or not, you can take that thing and drop it from about here, and it'll bounce all over the place, but it'll still work. Now, I can promise you, if I do that with this, I'm going to go home to a very unhappy wife who asks me why I just turned our Roomba into a jigsaw puzzle. Yes, you young man. No, this was the Nike swoosh. You were asking a question before.
Oh, that's it.
Darn it, that happens. Yes?
Where did they buy the parts?
Where do they buy the parts? That's a good question. I don't think everybody's ever asked me that. Well, actually, when it comes to making one of these, a lot of times they make the parts. These are made out of plastic. They're made out of a process called injection molding. Most of the stuff that you guys have that's plastic, like pens or what have you, is injection molding, meaning they take what's basically molten plastic and they inject it into a mold, and then it pops out. And they make a bajillion of them in a day. That's a technical term. So when it comes to the stuff like the packbot, it's aluminum, steel, what have you. They're usually machined, cast. There's all kinds of different processes involved. So you contract out to a machine shop to make that kind of stuff. Yes, I'll get to you in a minute.
Like, are you saying you could drop it from here to like the ground out there, like out the window?
No. The small one, yes. Our first look robot, yes. Our first look robot can be dropped from 10 meters. No, yeah, 10 meters, 30 feet, and it will survive and it will work. That's one of its
I'm
requirements.
assuming that's one of the tests that you don't do to humans.
Good assumption.
Also, what's like the most expensive robot? Like how expensive would they get?
I'm not sure, frankly. I'm pretty sure, yeah. I mean, yeah. Out of the ones that we make, or they're talking like, yeah, the Mars rovers. The Warrior is probably our most expensive. It's one of our more recent. One of our more recent ones, but it's also one of the larger ones. There's a lot involved in that. It's a lot bigger pieces and what have you. It's probably twice as expensive, if not more. But I don't know exactly. Nope, not you. It's that young lady in the back. She's front.
Are you like designing or making any like new ones?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Are you designing or making any new ones like now?
If we weren't, I wouldn't have a job. because that's my job. I'm a design engineer, as opposed to, and I work in what's called product development, making new parts, making new stuff. For instance, when you already have a product like the backbot, what you might do is you might either make improvements or you might make new stuff for it. New packages, new payloads as they're called. As I said, this thing can be equipped with different types of stuff. When it comes to the Roomba, they're always making improvements. People want it to do better, they want to do more, they want it to clean better, they want it to be more automatic, they want to have the brushes more easy to clean, so forth and so on. We're always taking input from our customers and trying to make a better product. Yes.
Does the first look have an arm?
It's mainly just a camera right now. The potential for small arms is a possibility maybe, but I mean it's literally about the size of this, except actually a little smaller. Yeah. Yes, sir. Oh, good. Another hand. Excellent.
What's the average or the high-end payload for a robot?
In weight?
Weight, for if it had to pick up a device, drag a device, something like that, what could it?
I believe actually it can pick up to about 30 pounds. And you know, it depends upon how high it's going to drag it or how it's going to pick it up. I know that it can indeed pick it up actually off the ground, 30 pounds, but in terms of dragging, it probably can do more than that. I mean, it's easier to drag something a little heavier than it is to pick it up fully off the ground. But yeah, it can pick up 30 pounds. The Warrior can actually pick up over 200 pounds. It's a very beefy device. Well, as you can see, it was pulling that pickup truck, so it's a pretty powerful, yeah, lots and lots and lots of batteries. Tons and tons of power. Yes, sir. What can I do for you?
And are there other companies besides iRobot that manufacture?
Yes, there are. There is Foster Miller, which actually was bought by a company called Kintec, and they make what's called Talon. That's actually basically the equivalent of, well, not the equivalent, the subpar competitor to the backbot. It's a different platform. It doesn't have the flippers. I mean, they have different companies approach things in different ways. Their controller's different, but they're also sold in theater as well.
Keep your options open for your input.
How long do the batteries
In general, it probably can go for about 6 to 8 hours, depends upon what it's doing. I mean, it depends upon how much you're going up hills, and what the load is on it, and so forth. That is usually actually one of the requirements. For instance, you know, as an engineer, you're handed a set of requirements. It says, okay, we want you to build this. It has to do this. It has to do that. It has to last for at least 6 hours. It has to be able to be dropped from 2 meters. It has to be able to, you know, be deep freezed and cycled, and it has to be able to be submerged underwater up to 3 feet, and so forth and so on. Those are all the requirements that come down to the engineers, and we all just go, but then we wouldn't have a job. Fine. It wasn't that for that. Any other questions? Going once, twice? Going? Oh,
No, one more.
one more.
Is it Wi-Fi? Is it a secured Wi-Fi? What is the connection between the controller?
It's a radio frequency controller, and I don't think I can tell you what that is. It's just one of those things I don't think I'm allowed to tell you that. Not quite.
No, I use the Xbox controller.
Yes.
Could you just take any controller and use it?
Any controller that has a USB input that follows the same kind of protocols as the PlayStation, Xbox, PS, whatever. You know, as you see, this is actually a Logitech, so you can buy somebody else's brand. As long as it has the same output as this, you're good to go. It's as simple as that.
That seems like one part that hasn't been militarized.
Actually, we do have a militarized version of it. It's a lot more expensive than this, and it's a lot heavier than that. In a way, you're almost better off carrying, you know, 2 or 3 of these in case one of them breaks, you just throw it away. But yes, they do. There are companies that actually make hardened hand controllers that are, you know, a pound and a half or so, cast iron or cast aluminum, so forth, that still has the same interface. So yeah, they do have them. and we use them on some of our other products. Thank you all very much. We're a great audience.